What's up, good movie lovers, and welcome to a movie review for Transformers Dark of the Moon, a clear sign of the movie apocalypse. It does not get any worse than this, folks. This is a total fail. In every area that matters about storytelling, this is a big-time success when it comes to pushing the boundaries of what can be done with a computer and transforming cars and robots and fighting and turning Chicago into a war zone. It looked amazing. So right now, let's give props to all of the talented, skillful people that brought this to life. They really created some dazzling, shining ornaments that can be hung on the tree, if the tree is the metaphor for the overall story. Unfortunately, it's the Charlie Brown tree. It looks great, but we feel nothing and it means nothing. That's what I want to focus on. I don't want to go scene by scene. I'm going to save that until this comes out on DVD and Blu-ray. We'll hang out and do a movie night where I can kind of go moment by moment and say, here's what's going wrong. What I want to address is what Transformers signifies for us. It is a sign of how Hollywood/StoryCorp has been making movies for at least the last 8 years or so, and this assembly line production that it's managed to reverse engineer in terms of the blockbuster. Back in the 70s, Godfather and Jaws kind of ignited this mentality that movies can make a lot of money in a short amount of time. Looking back, Aristotle wrote Poetics and identified 6 elements of quality drama. The number 1 element is action plot. Number 2, characters. Number 3, the thoughts and ideas. Number 4, the language. 5, music and song. 6, spectacle. Now these elements for the longest time were chronologically developed, and they ended up creating some classic films. And storytelling for the most part had a consistent quality about it. Once the blockbuster started to happen, Hollywood started doing some reverse engineering. Okay, let's find out why so many people are responding to these films. Let's start asking them questions. Let's start doing some research. And what they found was that this 1 through 6 elements of drama seem to affect us in the reverse order. If we're looking at Jaws, the shark was very memorable, which is number 6, the spectacle. The score was totally chilling. Dun 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 dun. Number 5, the song and the music. There's some cool dialogue in here, like we're gonna need a bigger boat. Number 4, the dialogue. Then just the idea about like a killer shark at the beach, and that's the concept and the idea. Number 3, Brody and Quint, really great characters. Hooper, they all had like a nice chemistry. There was the characters. Number 2, and then the overall idea, they got to stop a killer shark. Number 1, the action and the plot. Unfortunately, when Hollywood/StoryCorp starts to analyze this, they start to believe that the reverse order is the correct way to create stories. So now we're getting movies that are being made spectacle first, which Transformers is the total blueprint of. It's all about the CGI, the robots fighting. That's the first thing everyone remembers. It's what sells easily in the trailers. So we're going to totally push that. And then as an audience, we seem excited because, hey, this is what we always remember when we go see films. But slowly over time, we start to feel, well, how come this is what I usually like in movies, but I'm not really feeling anything? Because we've ended up sabotaging ourselves. And we're getting more of what we pay for and of what we tell StoryCorp Hollywood that we want. But what we don't know is that unconsciously, what we really care about the most is the character, is the story, is the emotion, is the overall struggle of the film, the conflict, and the music and the dialogue and the spectacle genre that comes out of all that. We need to develop characters first. We need to get back to that. So we need to establish some standards because we've let them fall. We've been kind of just going through our movie lives unconsciously, and we need to awaken and to reclaim it. Transformers is gonna make $1 billion. It made $162 million opening weekend in the US, 210 foreign box office for a total of almost $400 million. Revenge of the Fallen made $109 million opening weekend in the US. Now I know this one is a little bit inflated because it's 3D, so there's an upcharge for the glasses, but still, it seems that the shittier these movies get, the more money they're making. This is actually kind of depressing, especially when at the end of the film, people actually started cheering for this. And I thought, if people are cheering for this, what were they doing at the end of Return of the Jedi? Were their heads exploding and there were just spontaneous combustions? Because that's a movie that knew how to finish off a trilogy and gave us a totally emotionally satisfying resolution. And it's a film that I want to use as an example for how Transformers could have been better and what it's lacking. Also, we can go to the Bourne saga, the Matrix trilogy, Lord of the Rings, even the X-Men. Brett Ratner's third horrible movie of that saga is much better than any of these Transformers films because at least it continues continues all the setups that have been established in the first two films. It pays off in a horrible way, it kills off all the characters that we care about, but at least it continued the story. Here, every movie is a new story, and there's barely any continuation for any characters, there's no thematic journey, and we end up not caring about anyone. Looking at Return of the Jedi, there's basically three levels to it. Comedy relief on Endor, where we have the cute Ewoks. Then there's this other level of the space battle. Pure, just visual, visceral action, explosions, cool effects, the spectacle. Now, what Return of the Jedi and the Star Wars saga did really well, the reason we give a about Star Wars is the journey of Luke Skywalker from farm boy to Jedi and the redemption of Darth Vader. So this final layer of Return of the Jedi, where it's Luke and Darth and the Emperor, that's just the heart and soul and smart and spirit of not just that installment, but of the whole saga. And that's why we really care about this. If you take that out of Return of the Jedi and you just keep cutting back and forth between the space battle and Endor, it's still a comprehensible story. It makes for a fun spectacle kind of film, but it doesn't affect us in that meaningful kind of way. So you need to have characters going through some kind of journey, exchanging emotional punches, and really fighting for something that they care about. When Luke is swinging that lightsaber at Darth after he's threatened Leia and he's trying to turn him to the dark side, and Luke is trying to save his father, those swings of the lightsaber are manifestations of that internal emotion that Luke is just trying to use to rescue him from the dark side. And when Darth destroys the Emperor, we cheer. And when Luke takes the mask off of Darth and sees his father in human form for the first time, we get goosebumps and we get teary-eyed because he says, "I'm trying to save you." And Darth, now Anakin Skywalker again, says, "You already have. Tell your sister you were right." And we give a and we love the Star Wars saga. We still love it, even though there were 3 horrible, reverse-engineered 6 through 1 prequels and that forgot the lesson of how episodes 4, 5, and 6 were made and why we cared about them so much. That's what Transformers was missing, the heart and spirit. And that can only happen when characters go through some kind of journey. The whole Transformers trilogy, and I don't even want to call it that because it's just a photocopy of one movie. The Transformers movie times 3 is basically Endor and the space battle in Return of the Jedi, and there's no layer of Luke, Darth, and the Emperor. We needed Sam Witwicky to go through some kind of journey. He went from high schooler to college kid to career guy. Optimus stayed the same, and Megatron kind of stayed the same. Everyone should have gone through some kind of journey. How about just going back to the Transformers cartoon and giving Sam some kind of mecha suit, some kind of Ripley and Aliens power loader that can be a new skin, that can be a representation of how he's changed and how he's able to help the Autobots fight? What if he could just jump into some Robotech suit and fight alongside Optimus? Wouldn't that have been more satisfying that at the end of the first film or the beginning of the second, they gave him this mecha suit and now he was able to use it? And in the third film, there was some sort of even further journey he had to go on, possibly sacrificing himself, because he is kind of selfish, obsessed with cars and hot girls and everything. And we won't really talk about the Bootyformer, Hottyformer, Megan Fox 2.0, except to say that Michael Bay knows how to film her really well and really objectify her. He's a commercial/music video guy, so he makes us want things. He makes us want the sizzle and the flash, but there's no content and emotion. He's not a storyteller. He knows how to make look cool. He's a master of really making great action sequences, and you can't knock him on that, but he definitely needs Film School 101 direct and Oscar caliber film. He needs to do The King's Speech or The English Patient or Terms of Endearment. Michael Bay needs to make a hardcore dramatic film with no action sequences, only characters in a room battling with each other using emotion. Then and only then will he be able to graduate to the next level of filmmaking. If he doesn't want to do that, then at least get him involved with others that are able to go there. Much like George Lucas bringing on Lawrence Kasdan for Empire Strikes Back. And that's why it's the best movie out of that trilogy, because it brought in a writer that was so in touch with emotion and so able to just dig deep within these characters that he really transformed that saga. So while a lot of things in Transformers here looks really cool, especially the opening sequence, Cybertron, but at the same time I had to laugh because we get basically a reintroduction of the whole Transformers universe and you just think, oh my god, this is really insulting. But I don't even want to get that specific. I'm going to wait for a movie night. Philosophically, I just wanted to bring up these points because this is what's wrong with Transformers, and this is what's wrong with a lot of movies nowadays, this whole reverse engineering of the Aristotle poetics dramatic structure where spectacle now is in first place. And I'd even go back to say for for Aristotle's structure, he had action plot, which is basically just the story and how it unfolds in first place, and character is second. I'd say character is the first place. Not to get cocky and try to rewrite Aristotle, but especially for film, it all starts with the character and everything else is born out of that. Everything is a manifestation of character. And if we don't care about that, we can't survive on spectacle alone. It's going to be fun for a while, but we're going to be left feeling empty. And when you ask a lot of people who have seen this movie and Revenge of the Fallen, we actually start to feel bored because you can't watch an action sequence for 90 minutes. It gets tiring because there's no emotional connection to what's going on. The reason you fight is because it means something. That's why the World Wrestling Entertainment / Federation, I still call it WWF because that's what I grew up with. That's why they spend so much time, these characters establish their wars with their rivals, because when they get in the ring, the battle has to mean something for the fans. The fans have to know why they're cheering for their favorite wrestler. Just like here, we have to know why we're cheering for each character. Optimus should go through some kind of character journey, and Megatron's in this movie for like 2 minutes, the previous movie for like 10 minutes, the first movie for like 5 minutes. Dude, it's Megatron, and in like 10 hours of Transformers, we've had him for like 15 minutes. Fail. Horrible. Starscream dies in this and we feel nothing. In the 1986 cartoon film, we feel so much when Megatron returns as Galvatron and destroys Starscream, who just achieved his dream of becoming the leader of the Decepticons. An animated film based on a so-called commercial half hour for Mattel they just made because they want to sell more toys made us feel more than a 2007, 9, and 11 film series with Steven Spielberg producing it. Let's just close with that. How did this happen? Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest filmmakers ever, a master of the craft who's made so many films that have influenced generations of filmmakers and moviegoers that made people fall in love with film. You know this guy knows how to make movies impact us and to create emotion on screen. He just did it with J.J. Abrams in Super 8. So how does he not stop Michael Bay after seeing the first film and say, Michael, my name is on this movie and I have a reputation to uphold. And Transformers was not a huge piece of shit, but it was pretty bad. And I cannot allow you to make Revenge of the Fallen suck and Dark of the Moon be even worse. So I'm going to step in and base this in character and have the robots actually have relationships with each other, which in this movie they start to do, but it's too little too late and it still means nothing, but it's what they should have done with the first film. How did Spielberg not step in and make a difference? Maybe he wrote up a little cheat sheet for Michael Bay and said, okay, here's how you make things matter to the audience and have emotional impact. And maybe Bay just threw it out. He's like, I made Armageddon, I made Pearl Harbor, I made a lot of money, I know what I'm doing. And he didn't show the final cut of the film until it was in theaters, and Spielberg's like, Bay, you got me again. Or maybe Spielberg's like, oh, look at my bank account. I get this much of a percentage from $1 billion each film. Okay, whatever, do what you want. And that would be kind of depressing. And we have to call out this elephant in the room. Steven Spielberg somehow allowed these movies to be made. Now, the rumor is that he's going to direct Transformers Part 4. And while that's exciting in a lot of ways, it's also kind of depressing because it means that I think there's a new formula, a new system that's going to happen in Hollywood. They're purposely going to make movies horrible the first time around, and they're going to just live off of the box office that comes from the curiosity of the fans of whatever book or TV show they're adapting to the big screen for 1, 2, 3 installments, because we'll put up with it. We as people are very forgiving, think that everyone has a good side to them, and they're going to try to do the right thing. And Bay and Shia apologized for the second one, and they said, hey, the third one's going to be awesome. It's going to be one of the best action movies ever made. And it's a big piece of shit. And they lied, and they just wanted our money, and they have it, and we're not going to go back to the theater and be like, hey, give me my $13 back. That never happens. And then they're going to do this thing where, you know what? Now we're going to do it the right way, where we're going to atone for our cinematic sin, and we seek your forgiveness. We're going to have a real filmmaker, a total, complete filmmaker come in and do the new version of this trilogy. It's totally cynical, and I hope it's not going to happen. So with that said, this is unworthy of big screen viewing. Check it out as a rental. It'll look okay on the TV at home, flat screen TV, whatever. In a trilogy that could have been epic, there's no reason it shouldn't have been, because we've had movies for 100 years now, and why haven't they figured out how to make every film an Oscar film? There's no excuse for this to be going on. Buy a book, watch some Oscar movies, and just copy it. The bare minimum, copy it, and give us some kind of quality instead of this. This is horrible. Look out for the movie night scene-by-scene breakdown coming soon in a couple months. For now, consider yourselves advised for Transformers, the Movie Apocalypse, apocalypse is definitely here. And remember that Hollywood/StoryCorp give us more of what we pay for. Always choose your movies wisely. And until next time, long live good movies.